You'll never change your life until you fix these 5 things. You might be trying to change your life and feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing seems to change. Why? Because every time you try to level up, you try to move to that new version of yourself, something is pulling you back and nobody's ever told you what it is. Until you fix these 5 things, you will always fall back to that loop that you've been starting from over and over again. Now stick with me to the end here, because number 1 is the thing that you're avoiding most, but it's the reason none of the other things that you're trying work. So let's jump into this and see some of the reasons that might be holding you back. Number 5, your inner circle. Energy is contagious. If you surround yourself with people who complain, procrastinate, think small, you're going to do the same thing. You will only rise to the level of the people that you are constantly around. That's why they say that you are your 5 closest friends. The people that you hang around with the most, that's who you eventually become. So if you're continuing to hang around people who think small, who don't believe that you can make your dreams happen, that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve, you're going to stay stuck at that level that you are now. You have to begin to upgrade the relationships and the people that you hang out with. It doesn't mean you just replace your family that doesn't believe in you or anything like that. It's just acknowledging the people that you associate with and starting to make changes with how much time you spend with them, the types of things that you talk about. You start to distance yourself from the negativity, from the small thinking. When you start to work on that and fix your environment, that's when momentum can start to build. Number 4 are your standards. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. If you're okay with tolerating the life that you have now, accepting it for what it is, then that's a life you're going to live. You have to get to the point where you're no longer satisfied with the life that you're living and the person that you are. You've built an identity around this persona that you call you. And if you want to move forward, you have to begin to change your standards around who you are, what you believe, what you think. Until you start to raise the minimums around what you're willing to accept in your life, your results won't change. They'll stay the same, because you'll start to reach a certain level and then you'll fall back down to your baseline because you haven't done any inner work to really change the person that you are, the belief systems that you hold, the habits that you continually live out on a daily basis. So you've got to start looking at your standards and thinking about, okay, what am I willing to accept in my life? Getting clear on that and then starting to move forward from there. Number 3, your relationship with pain. Pain is not the problem, avoiding it is. The reason that you're not growing in life, the reason that you're not moving to the level that you want to move to is because you are avoiding the pain in your life. You might be dealing with depression, anxiety, anger, resentments, all these negative emotions, but you're avoiding the root issues of what's causing those. I'm not saying you have to go and relive a bunch of emotional turmoil that you may have experienced in the past, but it's getting to the point where you're no longer allowing those things to rule your life. One of my favorite quotes, and I've said this before, is by Carl Jung, and he said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So the question is, do you want to continue to allow the unconscious processes, unconscious programs that are running in the background of your life to direct your life, and then you're going to sit on the sideline and continue to call that fate? You're going to continue to say, well, I'm just this way because enter excuse. Now that's your choice. It's up to you. I did that for a very long time. A lot of people do that until you get to the point where you're so tired of it, you want to change. You have to do something to change, but why allow yourself to get to that point? Maybe you're at that point already. If you are, it's time to change. It's time to start moving forward. Most of your progress lives on the other side of what you are trying to avoid, what you're trying to not feel on a regular basis because it's uncomfortable. But if you want to start to elevate your life, you're going to have to start dealing with those things that make you uncomfortable. You're going to have to start dealing with the pain. Number 2, the story you tell yourself. Your identity is not fixed. Think about it as it's narrated every day. When you wake up, you have a certain morning routine that you follow. It's a process that you go through, and it's almost the exact same every single day. And that's the same thing for the rest of your life. It's a subconscious process that is running in the background, and essentially you can think of it as the narrator of your life. The way that you think, the way that you feel, most of the time these are unconscious processes that you're living by, meaning that whatever you did the day before is what you're going to do the next day, is what you're going to do the next day. So you're just living in a loop over and over and over again. Internally, emotionally, through your thought processes, much of that stays the same regardless of what is changing on the outside. So you have to start to get a hold of that. You have to start to rewrite the story that you're telling yourself, which means you're going in and you're becoming conscious of every unconscious process. You either allow your subconscious to continue to run that autopilot program, or you decide to go in and rewrite the program. That takes work, that takes discipline, it takes time, it takes a willingness to actually deal with the issues that you know that you need to deal with, but you haven't taken the steps to deal with them yet. It's the only way that you're going to be able to move forward. And now here we are, number 1, your willingness to let go. The old version of you. You have to let it die. You have to let it go. Whatever that old version of you that you don't like, the thing that you feel like is holding you back in life, this constant nagging in the back of your mind that you deal with regularly every single day from the time that you get up to the time that you go to bed, if you want to get rid of that, you have to let it go. You have to move on from that. There may be traumatic experiences around that. It might be shame. It could be guilt. There's a lot of different things that could be causing you to feel that way in the first place, but you have to get to the point where you're okay with letting it go. You're okay with releasing it from your life. If you don't do that, you won't be able to move forward because you're always going to be pulling your past into your present. And when you pull it into your present, you're automatically pushing it into your future. So, if you want to move forward, you want to change your life, you have to be willing to let go of all the different things that you're holding on to. All the different resentment that you have against people who may have said something that you didn't like, the bitterness that you have towards life, the shame that you feel, the guilt that you feel, the unworthiness that you feel that you think is just who you are as a part of you. You have to be willing to let all of that go. The fear of failure, the fear of not living up to the standards that you think you're capable of living up to. You have to let all that fear go. You have to let everything go. And then you have to start living from the place like you already are that person that you want to become. Now, this isn't necessarily always easy. It can be difficult to do, but when you start to work and move towards that direction, it does become easier. At the beginning, it might be a little bit rough, but the further you go along in that journey, if you stick with it, if you're consistent, your life will begin to change. I went from 20 plus years of depression, almost killing myself on 3 separate occasions, to a point where I don't feel depressed anymore. I don't deal with anxiety like I did. I was able to move past those thoughts and those feelings by continually working and staying consistent in deciding that I'm no longer going to allow myself to stay in this place. If you're ready to move forward, you have to start to adopt that mentality. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to slip back into that old belief system because you're unwilling to let it go. You will continue to cling to what's familiar, even though it's painful, even though it hurts. I've said this many, many times before. Sometimes it just feels good to feel bad. And if you're used to feeling bad and you've turned it into this thing that feels good, you've got to let go of that. You cannot allow yourself to continue to go down that road. You want to make a change, let all of that go. Tony Robbins has a great quote. It says, "Change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change." Now, you can either get to that point where the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, and so you decide to make that change, or you can decide that you're going to go through the pain of change before the pain of the same hits you. I know that might be a tongue twister there, it might be a little bit confusing, but it's your choice. You either stay where you are now, or you decide to move forward. That's ultimately what you're looking at. It's your choice. You stay where you are or you move forward. It's up to you to decide. If this hits hard, it's because you're ready. The truth is, motivation is fleeting. Motivation is here 1 minute and then gone the next. You don't need more motivation. What you need is a system that teaches you how to recognize what's going on internally and how to stay focused so that you no longer allow your subconscious to direct your life while you sit there and call it fate. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to do that, that's up to you. That's your choice. But if that's your choice, you can no longer blame the outside circumstances, situations, people, whatever's going on in your life for the way that you feel internally. At some point, you're going to have to start taking responsibility for that if you want to move on, if you want to progress. If you're ready to stop going in circles, comment ready below and then click the link in the description to book a free 15-minute consult call with me to discuss your next move. I hope you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to see you again in the next one.